But Emeka, I see you push your eyebrows up anytime, Jide talks about high on rhetoric and very, less on substance. What are your own thoughts about the speech that we've had, the very first speech from President Tinubu?
I align with Jide. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. And for me, Nigeria is in a situation where we just need to tackle two critical principalities. I don't call them demons. They are principalities. And the two principalities that have held Nigeria down since 1999 are corruption and insecurity. Corruption is actually the mother that gave birth to insecurity in Nigeria. So, for me, any government in Nigeria at any of the levels, federal, state, or local government, should tackle just these two. In fact, if I am the president, it's just two agendas. Let us not deceive ourselves. Slay the principality called corruption. Insecurity is taken into, is already slain. Corruption is the mother. Insecurity is the child of the mother. So the actual battle should be two-point agenda. Slay corruption, insecurity dies. And the rest, Nigeria will blossom. And that is what actually happened. If you look at our first republic, between 1960 and 1960, people say that there was corruption then. But if you look at the personnel and those that performed then, from Nnamdi Azikiwe to Tafawa Balewa to Ahmadu Bello to Nwafor Orisu to Dr. Michael Okpara, you could not trace any loot to them. They never left mansions, never left estates, go to Bauchi, go to Sokoto, go to Kanu, go to Muahia. Despite the fact that we said there was corruption then, compared to now, you will discover that those guys were monumental saints.
Emeka, you tell us, given his history in building his own team as two-time governor of Lagos, what do you think that track record will portend for the names that we may hear in the next following days?
For me, I allow with you. You can't keep on doing the same thing that has led you to nowhere and then keep repeating it and expect a different result. We are looking at Bola Ahmed Tinubu taking a blueprint from what Obasanjo did in 1999. Obasanjo came in at a time Nigeria was a pariah nation. He understood the enormity of the task and he went across the whole world and Nigeria picking the best. He never looked at their ethnicity, their religion, their tribal coloration. He looked for the best. And under Obasanjo regime, we've had the best since we started this journey in 1999. And like Jide said, it should be a government of, national competence. And I mentioned to you here that the twin demons here are the demons of insecurity and corruption. And we have solutions for it.
Right.
We need to go back to the constitutional and fiscal framework that worked.
So what I'm asking is, does then Governor Tinubu give you any indication that he will be?
Let me come here. Tinubu has always been an advocate of restructuring, state police, and the autonomy of the constituent units. He has always been an apostle of it since 1992. And I know along the line, politics came in and he tried to be politically correct over the last 8 years. Now he's the commander-in-chief. He's the one who calls the shot. It's time for him to look back again. What worked for us? If you look at his history, Tinubu has always, he fought Obasanjo regime between 1999 and 2007 to establish autonomy. You remember he was the first governor to create local government and Obasanjo withhold revenues meant for. So it's now for him now to go back to all that I have been preaching over the last 4 years. Resource control, fiscal federalism, let the constituent units have more power and responsibility. Like we had in 1960. Remember in 1960 to 1966, MPC won the parliament. Ahmadu Bello was actually the person that was supposed to be prime minister. But because the regions were very powerful and independent, he sent Tafawa Balewa, one of his guys, to go and become prime minister. So we should look back. The only way we can slay corruption, slay insecurity, is to go back to that constitutional framework, that physical framework, that socio-economic framework that worked for us in those golden eras we cannot miss, so that there will be less concentration at the center. When the regions can develop at their own paces, tapping within them the latent resources there. Resource control, raise whatever you can raise within, harness whatever resources, take 50%, pay tax to the national port and to the federal government, reduce most of those things in the exclusive list as we used to have in those golden era of 1960 to 1966. Then make public office to be such less attractive. Then it was part-time. We had the richest man in Africa then as a member of parliament. We had people who were blessed with intellectual content coming in to govern because there was no pegs and offices like we have now, where a senator walks home. The senator in Nigeria makes almost 50 times what a senator in the US makes. And so there's always that incentive for all manner of charlatans to do everything humanly possible, including killing and looting, just to get in there. So he has a very golden opportunity to write. Of course, people are pessimistic, opposition is there, but I can tell you, I still believe things can happen beyond our expectations. At his age, he has nothing more to look for. He is old, he's accomplished, he has always sought for this power. I pray that God will touch his heart to use this opportunity to write and ink his name in glory.
You know, he's given us a window into some of the things that he'll be doing, and I wanted us to look at it. But since we have, started on the issue of team and comparison with the previous administration, let's stay a bit on that and look at the Buhari administration, the outgoing administration, and the incoming one. What are some of the similarities that we are going to see with both the Buhari's APC administration and the Tinubu APC administration, and what are some of the differences that we could see going forward?
Okay, I want to believe that over the last 8 years, Bola Ahmed Tinubu simply played politics just to stay within the framework of what has always visioned to be the president. And I am hard-pressed for anybody to compare Buhari to Tinubu. First of all, Tinubu is not Buhari. Tinubu has always been Tinubu. And the Tinubu, unlike Buhari, has worked in the private sector. Remember, Tinubu was a treasurer in Mobo. And I've always argued this. For somebody to rise to that level of being a treasurer in Mobo, it's not like the Nigerian thing where they just appoint things based on nepotism. He will have earned those medals and rank. And he has always been an apostle of fiscal federalism and restructuring. So, I don't believe that Tinubu will be like Buhari. And I also don't believe that Tinubu will be easily manipulated like Buhari. Just like Jide said, age is not even the case here. I just pray, like he said, he must think out of the box. Nigeria is blessed beyond any reasonable doubt with the highest form of human capital that you can leverage upon to succeed. I just pray too that he will look beyond politics, look beyond inclusivity of come and let us chop, and look at this land is in a comatose situation based on what we have seen. Tinubu will not be like Buhari. Tinubu will be far better than Buhari. Let us tell ourselves the truth. But for him to be far better than Buhari, he must eschew nepotism. He must eschew clannishness. He must eschew religious bigotry. He must be ready to tackle things headlong. He has always shown himself to be broad-minded. Under him, you had a lot of competent guys in his team, like Ben Akabe, that was in Lagos State for almost 8 years, and who he took to Abuja, as one of his brothers, Jide, pointed out. So it's now left for him now to ink his name in gold. Look for the best and the brightest minds in Nigeria, those who are passionately creative, those who are willing to lay down their life for the sake of this country, those who can help him to actualize that renewed hope. And I'm sure, beyond and above expectations, if he can rein in the desire to gloat and play, for example, and decide to be a statesman, I can tell you, he will shock even the greatest pessimist.
The previous administration will say you're not being kind to them at all. We know in his outgoing speech to the nation, he talked about how he had done his best for the nation, even throughout the COVID pandemic, and indeed patted himself, on the back for how far he had brought Nigeria. But there you sit. Tell us that, Buhari didn't really do as much as, expected of him.
The truth is, even Buhari himself knows within his heart that Nigerians will never wish for anything like that government taken up on us. And like I said to you, we excuse Tinubu because we believed he played politics over the last 8 years. But I can tell you, Nigerians will never wish upon themselves what happened over the last 8 years. It's a path that have gone. Some of us who have survived it, who are alive. This is 3,000 that died under insecurity are not here to begin to testify of any renewed hope. The 20 million out of school kids are hoping that they will go back to school. The 55 million underemployed and unemployed Nigerians are hoping that under this renewed hope, that there will be security, policies and programs that will create jobs for them to be employed. And I can tell you, most people living in IDP camp, 1.5 million Nigerians, are hoping to go back to their homes. And I can tell you, if these guys can muster the courage, mobilize the National Assembly to restructure Nigeria truly back to what we used to have. Because let me tell you, these are foundational issues. And when the foundation is faulty, there's not even a righteous man can do. The problem with this country, even if you bring an angel, he will still falter.
So, and the other side of that is, and Jide, I'll bring you in soon, but, can Tinubu really alienate himself from the faults of the previous administration? Truthfully, he has not been an active member of the administration, but can he alienate himself or how the previous administration performed?
Let me tell you, he can. Critical, like rightly pointed out, he was not an active participant. And for somebody who has always lost over the last 20 years to be president, let us assume that he played along politically just to be relevant and be able to win the prize that he has now. Now he has the prize. Like I told you, Tinubu is above 70. Tinubu is a statesman. In fact, he is revered even across Africa. In fact, what he has left for him, because very soon he will join his ancestors. He will stand before God. And I can tell you this, I don't think he will need this opportunity of righting the wrongs.
How do you know very soon he will do that?
Very soon, maybe 20 years.
Maybe 30 years.
Maybe 30 years.
Well, thanks for the clarification. Because,
30 years.
Very soon, maybe 20 years. Let me tell you, at 70, even Bible, I'm a Christian, said, you shall pour it is 70 years. 3 scores and 10. Any other thing on top of it is grace. I can tell you, once you hit that golden year 70, I can tell you what you should be doing in your rest of it, even if God gives you 40 extra, is to try and use those remaining prayers to make it right with your maker and humanity. I can tell you, I just pray. He surrounds himself with the right people who will be able to tell him the truth. Because the Bible talked about if you surround the king with the wicked people, he will do wickedly.
But one of the things that he did mention is to reduce a few of the things, not one, reduce an import dependency. He's also talked about electricity, making it more accessible and affordable. Now, I want to hear from you. Is that achievable, or perhaps, the president is overreaching?
He's not overreaching, and I will explain this to you. You see, to do and build an economy that works, I've said it. See, let us not just overburden him with loads of things. What happened over the last 8 years will still happen if we don't do the right things. Insecurity and corruption. If you don't tackle insecurity, no investor will come in here, even if you tie them with ropes. I'll give you 2 classical examples. Gino Food, a Spanish food giant, came into Nigeria with a long-term plan of investing $200 to $1 billion. They went to Kebbi State, did the Copado model, acquired thousands of hectares of land, employed the locals, developed massive tomato farm gates at the upstream, set up factory. One fateful evening, bandits came out, attacked them, and they've slowed down. See, this country is so massively blessed that we can easily diversify this economy and make it an economy that can produce what we eat here and export nothing less than $300 billion worth of agro commodities. This country is so blessed. For the first time in the history of this country, based by the confession of the GMD of NNPC, we lose $1.9 billion worth of crude oil to thieves, brazen thieves. See, to steal crude oil is not something somebody does at Oshodi Park. It's not somebody to steal crude at that level. It's something that is done at the highest level. And do you know one thing? The Nigerian crude has a DNA. Why do we call the Nigerian crude sweet? It's the only crude oil, if you taste it, it tastes like sweet. It is, if you see Nigerian crude anywhere in the world, you will know it's Nigerian crude. Yet, annually, we lose over $22 billion worth.
Should he have touched on that?
So
That's
it's very simple. Saudi Arabia produces 5 times what we do. They have 15,000 pipelines, 3 times bigger than our own. Yet you can never hear that a liter of their crude was stolen. So it's part of the corruption we are talking about. So let us not saddle with President Tinubu with a lot of things. Tackle insecurity, tackle corruption, provide the enabling. Do you know that between 1960 and 1966, I can wake up in my village, those who were alive then, I wasn't born then, enter 911 bus, drive all night to Kano, buy your goods, drive again. There was no armed robber, no kidnapper, no terrorist, no bad, because the regions had their own police. So we must diversify and restructure the security architecture of this country. Fix insecurity. Tackle corruption headlong. And I can tell you, this country within the next 2 years, people will look back and begin to wonder what happened.
How are you going to tackle the corruption?
Now, as it stands now, that was the strategy of the Buhari administration. What we do not know is the strategy of the Tinubu administration, because he did not mention in his speech. Now, I know you want to say something, but in addition to that, is there the wherewithal? Do you see it within the president and his incoming administration, or incoming administration, because we do not know them, to tackle head-on the oil theft in the country?
Very simple. We've never had this thing before now, because the communities were involved before now. And like I mentioned to you, in the Southwest, we have the Amatokun. Amatokun was an establishment that was put in place because of insecurity in the Southwest. And I tell you this, what President Tinubu should do, he is now commander-in-chief, is to empower decentralized security, take it back to the communities. Do you know that every community understands every inch of the pipeline that passes through those communities? Rather than, see, let me tell you what I see here, what I call them elitist bandits. I call them sycophants. You see, like he rightly pointed out, they took practically the whole front page of the dailies. What they are trying to do is to ingratiate themselves into him, so that he will keep on with the same cycle of criminality that are there. Get the communities involved. We have a PIA already in place. Let the communities be involved in protecting their pipelines that passes through their communities. Empower them in terms of security. Do you know that if you get Amatoku, train Amatoku, empower Amatoku, and give Amatoku sophisticated weapons, just like the bandits and the terrorists, and increase their numbers, provide them with enough sophistication. I tell you, every inch of the communities will be protected. And I tell you, if the communities protect their enclave, they know those who are criminals. And if stranger walks into here, you will know. I tell you, once we are able to do this, get the communities involved, fix the insecurity, and then let the environment be friendly for investments to thrive.
I see. Well, a few of the things that he's told us about, security and corruption. He talked about the fact that we shall defend the nation from terror and criminality. He says security is a top priority investment area for him. He would increase the numbers. He would look at the conditions of people in that area. He would also work to ensure that anti-corruption agencies are propped up enough to deal with corruption issues. And Emeka, you already have a few things to say, even before I ask the question. Yeah. You go ahead.
So, very simple. One of the things Yar'Adua did when he became president and endeared him to Nigerians was that he declared his assets and liability publicly, and that of his wife to Rai. People knew what he owned and what he owed. There was no ambiguity about it. Tinubu is not looking for money. He's not looking. I don't think he's looking for wealth. So basically what you should do, as a mark of transparency, every person that will serve in his government must declare their assets and liabilities publicly. It's not enough to fill form. Some of them even feel anticipatory what they want to steal. They can tell you they have a house in Abuja when they don't have a house in Abuja because they've just indicated. So every one of them must declare their assets and liabilities and publish it. He must have an agency that should create an e-portal where these things should be made clear. A public quoted company in the stock exchange does that publicly. So if you want to serve publicly, you must be able to be very transparent. Number two, the EFCC Act and other CCB Acts should be amended in such a way that there should be a whistleblowing provision inside it. We talked about whistleblower. How does it work? Whistleblowers, there must be a provisional in the Act.
Are there not laws already?
It's not. In the CCB Act, there must be an amendment that states clearly, any Nigerian that helps to blow whistle that will enable us to discover looted funds should be entitled to about 10 to 20% of whatever is discovered. Let me tell you what will happen. When you put that in place and also allow people to publish their assets and liabilities openly in a portal that can be seen. If you don't want to stay in the kitchen, the heat, stay away from the kitchen. If you know you're not willing to make sacrifice and be transparent, stay away from public office. If you do this, let me tell you what will happen. The usual policeman that if he arrests you, you give him 1 million naira, he will lose you. We will see clearly, if I'm catching this man who has 1 billion naira, I'm entitled to 200 million. You can't, unless you're willing to give him 300 million for him to leave you. And as he's leaving you, DSS man is coming after you. The bankers who are allowing you, who are going to help you transfer the money. The teller cash and teller guy that earns 8,000 a month, will see if I help catch this man. So every Nigerian becomes a CIA agent. Every Nigerian becomes an EFCC official. And I can tell you, if he can institutionally put in place this, and for those who launder their monies in FX and properties, ban FX cash transfer in Nigeria. And then anybody who wants to register his land or his properties that are high-end must include their BVN, their tax identification number, and their name. In such a way, those who are using funds to launder money will be very careful. If I use you to launder 1 billion naira, All the EFCC need to do is to check your account history. How much do you earn in a month in this place? So how come you have 1 billion naira in your account? If you can put in place these practical steps, I can tell you, Tinubu will leave ink his name in the sand of history.
We'll see how that goes, because again, it's a lot of times it's easier on paper and it's easier to say. For instance, this FX matter you talk about, there are already some FX traders that will ask for your BVN, but yet again, people are still doing some of the things that you have indicated already. So we'll see how in the coming days, in the coming months, the administration that we have now, led by Bola Tinubu, will deal with the corruption cases or the corruption issues, concerns that Nigerians have. And if I'm not mistaken, the previous administration had put in place a system that oversaw the likes of procurement and things. Why do you think that didn't work, and what else could the new administration do to plug some of those loopholes?
Let me explain to you clearly why it was easy for one accountant general to steal 109 billion. It was just because the issue of connivance. It involves a lot of people, because one person cannot just pack 109 billion just through the system without the bankers, some of the colleagues knowing. And the bankers are also very important here. We should have to point out. Like I said, you put in place. You see, one of the ways. Those in America, those in the UK are as corrupt as those in Nigeria. Italians are as corrupt as Nigeria. Those in Turkey. But one thing that has helped those guys is the issue of deterrence. They know if you steal, you must be found out, even if it takes 10 years. So you don't need to, because when there is incentive to steal, people will steal. We talked about the issue of dual exchange rate. There was no reason for us to have an exchange rate where you had official rate at 450 and the parallel market at 50. Even a cent, you may be tempted to steal, and that was what destroyed our foreign exchange market till today, because the incentive to steal was there and people were manipulating that system. Very simple. If you put in place these measures, like I said, institutionalize it legally. Every public office holder, before you resume, you must declare your asset liability publicly. Ensuring the whistleblowing acts in the law in such a way that 20% of whatever is discovered is given to those that help to discover it. Let me tell you, make it compulsory. 70% of the loots in Nigeria are laundered through FX and through properties, from Ikoyi to Banana Land to Maitama. If you put in place measures, before you register that your Lamborghini, you include your team, your name, your BVN, before you register that property. Even if you're using funds or you incorporate a company as an SPV, everybody in that directorship or shareholders must have those things there. It's very simple. It makes the works of the security agencies very easy. If EFCC want to pick who owns this property, all you just to get a copy of that, put in the team in the system, the BVN, and you track it. If you use your uncle, who is a village farmer, to launder 1 billion, all they need to do, and put a burden to prove. The issue of until he is innocent until proven guilty should come in other part of the crime. It has to do with financial crime. It will be the burden should be on the person who owns the money and the assets. To prove beyond reasonable doubt that his assets and liabilities were acquired legitimately. If you put in place this measure, and I think people can easily do it. You see, if we look at the deficit, the gap in our infrastructure need, it's not something that can be done using fiscal revenue. As of today, based on the report by the World Bank, we will need about $3 trillion over the next 30 years to fix our infrastructure gap, from housing to road to rail. UK, with a land mass of 240,000 square kilometers, that's about 16,000 kilometer rail network. Nigeria, less than 3,000 narrow gauge, a land mass that is almost 4 times that of the UK. Basically, what we are going to do, for us to drive infrastructure and to make it efficient, we must adopt the PPP frameworks. Look at Ghana is doing it. Look at the example of the rail project we're talking about. In 8 years, we did 156 kilometer rail from Lagos to Ibadan, and people were dancing and clapping at a whopping cost of $1.9 billion. Ethiopia and Djibouti did 759 kilometers, standard gauge projects, stronger with electricity over outrageous mountainous region that is not even as smooth as Lagos to Ibadan, for $4.5 billion. Go and check the average cost. Our own is about 12 billion per kilometer. They are own less than 6 billion per kilometer. Why? It was PPP driven. So for us to drive infrastructure from housing to road to rail, we must go back to adopt the private-public partnership model. And we must restructure most of these things. Road, rail, aviation should be devolved to the constituent units, so that the Southwest can decide among themselves. We want to do rail network that covers the Southwest and link to the Southeast. Lagos State, Ogun, Ondo, Delta, Edo, Onitsha, Rivers, and Imo can decide we want to do rail that moves from Lagos Port to Port Harcourt Port under a private-public framework. Get a global infrastructure partner.
But as it stands now, is there anything stopping these states from doing
it?
It
is, because you have to go to the federal government, get the DPE, get the ICRC and all those stuff. If we devolve it and allow the states to control aviation like we have in America, remember we are passing presidential system of government. We say we brought from America. Let us look at how the fiscal framework works in America. Have aviation, have rail, have road, everything, devolve resources and the responsibility to the constituent units. Regions can come together. Southwest can decide South-South.
I think that
it will flow. And we will have a lot of investments coming into Nigeria. So let me tell you, if you're going to spend $100 billion annually doing the infrastructure deficit in Nigeria, it cannot come by way of selling crude oil and sharing crude oil money.
In terms of continuity, what are we looking at here in Emeka?
To be very sincere, what are you continuing? Continuing increasing poverty? Like you rightly pointed out, what Buhari did over the last 8 years was to establish nepotism as a system of government.
Is that not the single good thing?
See, I'll give you an example here. See, let me tell you something. Like, the mistake we will make, I want to strongly believe that Asiwaju just played politics to get power. I don't think he will make the mistake of continuing that trajectory. Lagos State is where they are today, not because of what they did at national level. Like I said, Nigeria has huge potentials. 156-kilometer rail line in 8 years. It's not the kind of thing we want. We want to see rail line crossing Osun, going into Ogbomosho, going into every part of that way. We want it in the southeast, we want it in the south-south. And the private-public partnership arrangement will unlock this market. But like I said, we must tackle insecurity, number one. So what I'm trying to say is very simple. We know what works for us. Have you forgotten that in 1966, the North was not powered by the crude oil. The North was powered by granite pyramid, cotton. We had textile companies everywhere. The West was powered by cocoa, and a lot of things that Sabah did. Remember when we talk about food, in the West, as of 1960s, 430 people were being fed in school. Somebody told me, those people that were there, that they used to eat half chicken for breakfast. And they didn't have crude oil. What they just did was physical discipline. There was resource control. What resource control did was very simple. When there is resource control, the need for people to lazy away, abandon resources at their backyard, waiting for the crude oil, little crude oil to fill the gas share will not be there. If there is resource control, Osun State has huge gold deposits. I tell you, Adeleke and Co. will now begin to look for global partners like the bank group to see how they can harness the gold resources in Osun State. Knowing fully what they
just like they are harnessing in Zamfara.
Yes.
It's private individuals that are harnessing those ones.
If we do resource control, the government of Zamfara will take hold of their gold. And I can tell them, people will now look inward. In where I come from, there's gypsum. People don't know the part of gypsum. The state governor will now bend down and say, okay, how do we harness the gypsum materials and all those stuff? So we need to constitutionally and physically transform this country in such a way where you put in resource control. All this one, these people are taking front advert pages to enable them get contracts so that they can continue stealing crude oil. If we have resource control, the owners of the oil will tell you, okay, enough is enough. You cannot use us to be collecting money and be acting big man.
Let's talk about maybe three things quickly. Quick points on that. The fuel subsidy. He says the fuel subsidy is gone. What should the Nigerian people understand by that?
The fuel subsidy is gone, it is gone. And we just need to put in place modalities, palliatives, incentives to cushion the effect on the people. And I've always made this argument. Fuel subsidy has always been at the root of the corruption in the oil and gas, especially the downstream. Over the last 50 years, we have wasted 16 trillion naira on fuel subsidy. Over the last 8 years, we wasted 1.3 trillion on failed turnaround maintenance program and reported losses at the refineries without it maintaining one single liter of PMS. So what he should do now, he has pronounced it, political will is there, I'm very sure, to now put in place structures. Like I said, once we remove fuel subsidy and put in place the right security architecture to protect our pipelines and our upstream sector, we'll be saving 18 trillion. I'll give you a breakdown. On an annual basis, based on the current budget, we'll be spending almost about 6.5 to 7 trillion as subsidy. That one will come into the bucket saved. we annually lose $22 billion to oil theft based on the confession of the GM and NNPC. That one will come into the bucket. The monies we waste at the refineries, they should privatize those refineries. They should not give it to Dangote. Warning. Those 4 refineries, 3 refineries must be privatized and given to deep-pocketed local investors. We have Sahara Energy, we have Bovas, we have Pinac, we have different local players here that can take over those refineries and collocate new refineries that are using the infrastructure there. Those refineries must be privatized within the next 6 months. We cannot be wasting 120 billion naira every year.
So that you don't substitute government monopoly with private
monopoly. So they should give it to other private investors. Don't give it to the same person. And then number 3, we must now put in place sustainable palliative. We've done research on this. 1.52 trillion naira handed over to Nigeria Sovereign Wealth Fund. We remove our subsidy. Every state can get at least 10 billion extra into the education account every month. Then half of those monies should go into.
We're being sang out, but before.
No,
no, gentlemen. I wanted to ask about budgetary reforms, but you know.
It's not the kind